Backlight room. Check, check. I think that's pretty good. Test, check. Thank you, Jason. In dying, Christ destroys our death, and in rising, Christ restores our life. Christ will come again in glory. As in baptism, Jimmy put on Christ, so now in Christ may he be clothed with glory. Here and now, dear friends, we are all God's children. What we shall be has not yet been revealed, but we know that when Christ appears, we shall be like him, for we shall see him as he is. Those who have this hope purify themselves just as Christ is pure. Jesus says, I am the resurrection and I am the life. Those who believe in me, even though they die, yet shall they live. And whoever lives and believes in me shall never die. I am Alpha and Omega, the beginning and the end, the first and the last. I died, and behold, I am alive forevermore, and I hold the keys of hell and death. Because I live, Jesus says, you shall live also. Friends, we have gathered here to praise God and to witness to our faith as we celebrate the life of James Alexander George Tucker, Jimmy, as we know him. We come together in grief, acknowledging our human loss, so we pray that God may grant us grace, that in pain we may find comfort, in sorrow we may find hope, and in death we may find a resurrection. Will you join me in prayer? Eternal God, we praise you for the great company of all those who have finished their course in faith and now rest from their labor. We praise you for those dear to us whom we name in our hearts before you. Especially we praise you for Jimmy, whom you have graciously received into your presence. To all of your servants, Lord, grant your peace. Let perpetual light shine upon them, and help us so to believe where we have not seen, that your presence may lead us through our years and bring us at last with them into the joy of your home, a home not made with hands, but eternal in the heavens. Through Jesus Christ our Lord we pray. Amen. You're invited to turn to hymn number 140 in your hymnal, which is located underneath your pew if you're sitting on the first row, or in front of the pew in front of you, as we join together in singing, Great is Thy Faithfulness. We invite you to stand as you're able as we sing together. Our scripture this afternoon comes to us from the 27th Psalm. It is a psalm that has inspired many beautiful interpretations and renditions into music. And the Psalms are nothing but a collection of songs passed down throughout our faith throughout the years. Hear now Psalm 27. The Lord is my light and my salvation. Whom shall I fear? The Lord is the stronghold of my life. Of whom shall I be afraid? When evildoers assail me to devour my flesh, my adversaries and foes, they shall stumble and fall. Though an army encamp against me, my heart shall not fear. Though war rise up against me, yet I will be confident. One thing I asked of the Lord that I will seek after, to live in the house of the Lord all the days of my life, to behold the beauty of the Lord and to inquire in his temple. For he will hide me in the shelter in the day of trouble. He will conceal me under the cover of his tent. He will set me high on a rock. Now my head is lifted up above my enemies all around me, and I will offer in his tent sacrifices with shouts of joy. I will sing and make melody to the Lord. Hear, O Lord, when I cry aloud. Be gracious to me and answer me. Come, my heart says, seek his face. Your face, Lord, do I seek. Do not hide your face from me. Do not turn your servant away in anger, you who have been my help. Do not cast me off. Do not forsake me, O God of my salvation. If my father and mother forsake me, the Lord will take me up. Teach me your way, O Lord, and lead me on a level path because of my enemies. Do not give me up to the will of my adversaries, for false witnesses have risen against me. They are breathing out violence. I believe that I shall see the goodness of the Lord in the land of the living. Wait for the Lord. Be strong, and let your heart take courage. Wait for the Lord. And our second reading comes from Philippians, the 4th chapter, verses 6 through 8. Do not worry about anything, but in everything, by prayer and supplication with thanksgiving, let your requests be made known to God. And the peace of God, which surpasses all understanding, will guard your hearts and your minds in Christ Jesus. Finally, beloved, whatever is true, whatever is honorable, whatever is just, whatever is pure, whatever is pleasing, whatever is commendable, if there is any excellence, and if there is anything worthy of praise, think about these things. May God add his blessing to the hearing and reading of this scripture. Thanks be to God. And now I'd like to invite those who are going to speak and share words of remembrances to come up at this time.
My name is James, a.k.a. Lance Tucker, Jimmy and Janet's oldest child, and brother to Carla and John. On occasions like this, there is great sadness of loss. We celebrate the life of a great hero, a good man, a blessed man. We feel sorrow in the fact that something special has ended, as all special things do. It is the way things are. We join with others who weep. We find comfort in each other as we share what each of us is feeling. I'm very thankful for each of you, all the special people God has put in our lives, all my family and friends, and those who pray for us. Some of you I have not seen in many years. I pray that this day finds you well. You are each in my heart through life, may have taken us on different paths. I'm especially thankful for those of you who took the time from your busy lives to spend time in remembrance, appreciation, and celebration in the life of Jimmy Tucker, the man I have the unique privilege of calling my father. For me, this is an immeasurable loss, only bearable through faith in God and understanding the nature of life. I reflect now on the significance of a boy prodigy rising from Trenchtown, Jamaica, at the dawn of the Jamaican movement for independence and nationhood. I believe he was divinely inspired and given a voice of beauty so that people would pay attention to what it had to say. As God lit a fire of inspiration on the Jamaican soil, as we see now, Jimmy Tucker was the original boy singer who inspired all the other Jamaican talent that rose to fame to spread music and culture of independent Jamaica around the globe. I always wondered why there was no other singer like my father. It turns out he had his own genre of music, derived from classical inspiration, but with the flavor of the islands of Jamaica and the Caribbean. Beautiful songs filled with inspiration. His art found itself outside of reggae, ska, and dancehall, and all the other popular forms, abiding in a place where no one approached. I believe God gave him a special place. Instead of seeking the thrill, the crowds of popular music, the global acclaim and fortune, instead he strived to record songs of patriotism and faith, songs of Jamaica, a path far less profitable than the commercial music of the day. Later, as a church administrator, minister, philosopher, journalist, and educator, he used his energies and talents to encourage Jamaica to fulfill its unique purpose in the world. His efforts were only to be diminished eventually by the age of his body, though the vision he strove for was never diminished. He was a very kind man, but a deeply serious, intelligent, and spiritual man. In my early years, I remember seeing my father as a giant, my hero. He always knew what to say. As a child, I remember the awe that I felt towards him. He had it all together. He was always patient and kind, never letting anything get him stressed. When I was a small child, I remember commenting to Dad, "You are so much bigger than other men." "What do you mean, son?" he responded. From his response, I realized maybe I was missing something. After consideration of his feedback, I came to understand that in my childhood vision of him, I saw him as a giant, not in the literal sense, but he was a giant personality. He represented to me the perfect ideal of a man and everything I wanted to be. Such a beautiful role model, intelligent, kind, patient, and caring. So capable, an athlete in every sense. I remember how he ran at my sports day one year. He was at least 3 yards out in front of all the other fathers in the race when his glasses fell off. He stopped to get them so they would not get stepped on. Then he finished the race. He did not win, but I know that he would have won had he had contact lenses, something not invented yet. The memories of my father are good ones. To me, he embodied stability, reason, love, and courage. His life exemplified those values. Though he faced difficulty, he never appeared to be deterred by hardship. In him, I saw the most tenacity of anyone I knew. He was determined and persistent. It was clear he knew what needed to be done and was able to stay focused on doing it. I never saw his faith waver in all my years. I remember in my college years going to visit a church service together where he had made arrangements to sing. The venue was unfamiliar to us, and we got there late to the service. We got there just in time for the altar call. I felt so bad since I was the one driving. In my mind, it was too late for him to sing. The service was ending. But I was surprised when during the altar call, he boldly walked up and spoke to the minister. Next thing you know, he had been introduced, sang, and brought everyone to tears. People stayed after the service to huddle around him. I saw he was unmoved by circumstances or what people would think. He had boldness and tenacity. My father loved family. His early family life was made harder when he lost his own father at the age of 5. But the family unit stayed strong, working through challenges together. My early experiences included almost weekly trips to Helsha Beach to swim. He loved the water. Along the way to the beach or on the return, we would visit with my aunts and uncles. We all enjoyed seeing family. My cousins and I would have a good time talking and playing, then having some of the best Jamaican food you could imagine. My aunties could all cook so well. They set the standard I used for rice and peas and stewed chicken the rest of my life. When my Uncle Edmund was struggling with health problems and all other options has failed, my father brought him to live with us. We also had other relatives and friends stay with us when they were in need. They are family, he would say. I think I may have had the best father. When I had my first auto accident and damaged his car, I was very nervous about how it was going to go when I told him. After the crash, I went straight home. He was resting, being watched by the television. Dad, I said, waking him up, I crashed the car. Are you all right? He asked, putting his glasses on and giving me his full attention. He was not at all concerned about the car. He only cared about me. That event gave me great confidence and made it easier for me to understand the grace of God and how our Heavenly Father cares about us. My father was a man of high ideals and principles. He enjoyed reading, studying, reasoning, and exploring the deeper topics of life. He did not spank us, but disciplined us via a good talking to and discussion. Sometimes I thought the spanking would have been easier for me. His lectures would dig right into some area of my weakness, or other times we would just explore some specific topic of discussion started by comments, questions, or events. Through the years, my father and I had many wonderful discussions, especially as a teenager when I thought I had it all figured out. He would spend hours debating everything from religion to politics to social issues. When there was no clear winner in the debate, he would say with confidence, "You will understand." He was confident life would inform me of the truth he taught. Now that I'm older and wiser, I can say that he knew what he was talking about. That which I was too naive to understand, I can now affirm without any doubt. I will miss our debates. They were special times, just he and I, moments cherished. Tears fill my eyes when I think about not being able to ask his advice and being able to reason things out anymore. Although I can't agree with him on everything that he wrote, I find comfort in his writings and music. Every now and then, I find new clues that confirm that he had tackled some of the questions that we had not yet discussed. My father, who studied for the ministry with a Master's of Divinity degree, really focused on practicing his faith. He was not one to get caught up in all the dogma and religious infighting. Instead, he distanced himself from it. He believed people needed to think for themselves and wanted to see people work together for the common good. He was all about will and action. One time I said to my father, "Dad, we need to pray more." He responded, "God doesn't want us praying to him all the time. He has shown us what is good, and we should be doing it." Throughout his life, I only saw a man that tackled the world's challenges with grace. He never complained. He never quit. He never made excuses. He always thought of the greater good. He helped others carry their burdens. It's just like the old song he would sing. If I can help somebody as I pass along, if I can cheer somebody with a word or song, if I can show somebody he is traveling wrong, then my living shall not be in vain. He always thought about and spoke up for the least represented members of society. He always treated people with respect, working to promote cooperation between Christian groups throughout the Caribbean. He saw the church as having the obligation to work together for the greater good of all, helping the less fortunate and being socially impactful. My dad made himself accessible to those in need. Often you would hear someone calling him, "Brother Jimmy," or "Minister," as discussions were raised. I would observe him taking the time to speak with those in need. Sometimes it was clear there was nothing to be done. He would still listen and give counsel as he could to improve the person's state of mind and add comfort. We saw values in the lives of others, never putting himself above anyone, but taking the time to listen, to reason, and trying his best to help find a solution to the problem at hand. He would think carefully before answering, and he would always have an idea put forward that was clearly motivated by love and genuine concern. He was a visionary who pursued idealist principles and philosophy, but he never forgot the people who were right in front of him, or the principle of love and what it means to be human. As an educator, he sought to write books to remind Jamaicans of their unique place in the world and giftedness. He took the time to drive to schools, to personally speak and sing to school children, to inspire them to embody the higher principles needed for Jamaicans to thrive. He would take the time to talk personally with my friends and I, to have intellectual debate, and to inform and educate us on our responsibilities as young adults. He saw education as a way for personal development and advancement. Readers are the leaders, he would say to us kids. He encouraged a healthy interest in books. The student is what matters, he would say. A good student can learn in any environment. You cannot blame the school. At one point in high school, I spent too much time playing chess. I was good, trying to be better. He became concerned. He did not tell me to stop playing. Instead, he said, "Son, if you're going to do this, make sure you are the best in the world." That got me thinking. And after the IBM supercomputer Big Blue defeated then world-leading Grandmaster Garry Kasparov at chess, his words took on significance for me. Point taken, Dad. I will keep my sights on engineering school. I don't claim to be a singer. From my father's example, I know what that really means. Waking up early each day, vocalizing, then singing select songs to keep his voice in tune. What a powerful voice. His voice could be heard for blocks around the neighborhood. At number 1, all the way past 2C of our home street. My close friends would report hearing, "Boil, boil, 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 boil," up and down the scale. My friends and I would laugh about it. Such a prominent feature of our neighborhood in St. Andrew. If you did not get up by a certain time, Jimmy Tucker would wake you up from your slumber. My father was a singer, a tenor. He enjoyed listening to the great tenors and accepting every vocal challenge, mastering singing with such force that we suspected it caused him hearing loss over time. I was amazed by him, even singing classic songs in other languages, such as La Donna Mobile in Italian and Ave Maria in Latin. My father considered himself a singer, a tenor, but never wanted to be called an entertainer. He would say something like, to paraphrase, "I'm not here to entertain anybody. I'm here to inspire and to educate. I am not just some act. I am an artist." Doing albums for him would mean late nights at the studio, lots of review tracks that he would listen to what seemed like 100 times a day before he would update the performance. Our family would know the song on every album by word, in order, before the record was ever released. And we were tired of it. My father was a very serious man, a focused man, an intense man, a giant man of vision. Refer to his articles in the Jamaica Gleaner, where he was an advocate for justice. His words would burn like a coal stove. He was very heavily invested in the events of society, the political policies, the behaviors of those in leadership in Jamaica, and those promoting philosophy for the young independent nation. Right before the 1980s election, I later learned some well-meaning people had warned him, "Jimmy, they will kill you for saying those things. You should cool it for a while." He knew he was putting his life on the line to speak up for what was right. I think of him every time I hear the song, "The Lord is my light," based on Psalm 27 that was read earlier, where it says, "The Lord is the strength of my life, of whom then shall I be afraid?" I could see him thinking those words over as he decided whether he was going to speak up for the right. My father was cut from the cloth of a leader, a man that understood the meaning of divine calling, that understood that each of us is here for our purpose. He did not turn away from being true to that faith. As in the words of the Lord Jesus Christ, "What good is the salt if it has lost its taste?" Last month, as I sat by my father's bedside, his life slowly slipping away, I heard the words in my mind, "I have run my race, I have finished my course." It is hard to let him go, though. Such a messenger of hope, love, and blessing. I still hear him say, "I have a work." I see how much of what he tried to teach and impart on me and others in life, and I also realize what it means to be a hero. He is a hero for me. He is a hero for us. His words and song will echo in us long from now as people remember and learn of Jimmy Tucker and hear his voice singing. I am proud of my father. He was a role model in every category I can think of. I see his life really made a difference. "I have a work to do," he would say. "Someday you will understand." He was going to do what he believed God put him here to do, and he knew it would bear fruit. As I consider these thoughts to share, I ask myself, what would he say to us today? This is what came to mind. It was as though I could hear his voice, tears filling my eyes. I think if he was here with us today, he would remind us of the following. God is good. He has shown us what is good. We must, each one of us, be up and doing. First the will, and then the way. I have finished my work. I have done my part. I have earned my rest. My son, my people, continue. Fight for what is right. Do what is good, and never stop fighting. What is right and good is worth fighting for. Life is not about the easy path, but the right path. God will give us strength until the end. Thank you for giving attention to celebration of the life of Jimmy Tucker. He still has much to teach us. Read his books, listen to his recordings, consider what he's saying.
Good afternoon. My name is Carla. I'm the middle child and daughter of Jimmy. Today, in remembrance of my dad, I would like to share a few thoughts of my dad. My dad was recognized My dad was recognized for his singing talent at age 5. He soon became a singing sensation and was given a stage nickname, Little Jimmy. Throughout his later career, he became known as a silver soprano and tenor. He was also, as my brother Lance said, an educator, an executive music producer. To me, he was my dad, a role model, and a parent and friend. There are many qualities that I loved about my dad. Growing up, I have respected and admired his reverence and faith in God. I always admired his generous spirit and compassion for others. He was never too busy to lend a helping hand or to give a kind and uplifting or encouraging word to someone in need, a neighbor, a friend, a family member. Growing up, it was very, very beautiful to see his love for his wife, Janet, over the courses of 53 years of marriage. This is beautiful to see. He enjoyed spending time with all of his grandchildren, both near and far. Spending time with them, seeing their smiling faces, always giving a word of advice and guidance, always giving words of wisdom. Growing up, I enjoyed our Saturday morning walks to the park where we played football with my dad. And as my brother Lance mentioned, our wonderful Sunday afternoon outings to the beach, where we would go and spend time with our aunts after, and they'd make the most delicious food, and we'd spend wonderful family time. At age 9, I had the opportunity to sing with my dad in his rendition and song, One God. This was from the album, One God, One Aim, One Destiny, which is a tribute as well to Marcus Garvey. This was a treasured moment for me as a young child. I had the chance to see my dad in motion, singing his passion at the recording studio. As an adult, I have grown to appreciate my dad's in-depth knowledge of philosophy, of world history, and his knowledge of historical timelines. This is amazing to me. He had a remarkable vocabulary, and his brilliant use of words was amazing. I will miss our talks. He spent a lot of time providing guidance. My dad never missed a birthday, a graduation, his anniversary, or a special occasion. He was a loyal patriot to his country, Jamaica. My dad had many successes and honorable achievements. in his singing career and throughout his life. But he steadfastly remained humble with a great spirit of gratitude. In closing, as I reflect on my dad's life today, though I am sad to see him go so soon, I am thankful for his life. I'm thankful for him. He was a blessing to our family and to the lives of others. His visions were larger than life itself. And I believe that his music, his legacy will live on for generations to come. My prayer for my dad now is that he can rest in peace with the Creator. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. Families, family friends, well-wishers, appreciate all the condolences and words of encouragement over the past few weeks. Before I start my tribute to my dad, I just want to recall a few weeks ago, going through Facebook and seeing all the gentle comments, loving comments, reflecting on the life of Sir James. It was shocking. In just 2 days of his passing, on one side alone, I saw over 1,000 comments. This was a turning point for my understanding of my dad. Some of us don't even have 1,000 friends on Facebook. These were people ranging from their 90s well into their 30s. Maybe someone knew him directly, maybe someone knew him through someone, or just knew of his legacy. We appreciate it all. Jonathan Tucker here. I'm the last of the three. My brother, the oldest, James, and Carla, the middle. My dad affectionately called me Washi, the wash belly. Johnny, or Skipper. I was well into my career before I knew what skipper meant. Realizing that a skipper was the captain of a ship. Very smart man he was. He was a great MC, and I'm going to try to draw on his courage and excellence in that to give my speech today. I remember being at functions with him. No matter what the occasion, he would just go up, sing, speak, without text. It was all in his head, and it was perfect. Jimmy Tucker was affectionately called Sir James or Sir T, in short for Sir Tucker. He was highly regarded and respected by us, like a knight amongst royals would be. All of us kids called him that. Now grown up myself, daughter Carla, and eldest son Lance. James, Jimmy, Alexander George Tucker was born and raised in Trenchtown, Jamaica, the youngest of 11 brothers and sisters. With music an integral part of the family, Jimmy's love for singing was obvious at an early age. When all performers in the family would compete against one another, like any family of the time, it was a way to entertain the family, elders, and basically keep out of trouble. Jimmy soon stood out around the tender age of 5 as a child star with a sweet voice. Later, that voice would develop into a consistent tone, both high and mid-range. He was going to soon be recognized as a child prodigy, the likes of which we now know. Singing was his passion. He would grow up to win many accolades and a scholarship to Moravian College in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, where he met his wife, Janet, affectionately called Poppins. 54 years together. There they made music together as he studied seminary and philosophy. Together they would perform, and always with a song in his heart. Those that heard him couldn't help but listen, as his voice sent vibrations to the air. He was different in a special way. His songs would convey both a message and a personality, his personality. Even if you heard the song before, his rendition was sweeter and unique in its presentation. That was by no accident. Sir James had a calling. Even though his training was ministry, his heart and songs would add and convey its own meaning to that message, and soon everyone he blessed with a song went away with that clear message. I recall days as a young boy when I used to follow my dad around Kingston, just out of curiosity. I wanted to experience his daily routines. Growing up, he was my best example of a hard-working man. He was always doing a work from his own mouth. I remember once getting to go to the studio and watching him and musician John Williams create his O Come, Emmanuel track. That was something to behold for me. What an experience it was. The engineering behind it was fascinating. I remember being home nights after that track was made and hearing him play it over and over again. The whole family had to hear and approve the final track. You knew this was his passion. When most would be remembered for having a good time and loving the best life could offer, Sir James was about getting others to come together for the best that we could offer as a collective people. As one would already know, he would always take the time to inspire the youth. I remember friends who were inspired by my dad as though he was their dad as well. I recall also always feeling as though I was in his shadow wherever I went with him. I went a lot of places with him. After school, to keep myself out of trouble, I would just ask, Dad, can I ride along? Where are you going right now? I'm going to Grand Spain. I'm going to Trenchtown. I'm going Seaview, wherever. wherever he was going for whatever cause, I wanted to go with him. And he let me go. There were certain places that he didn't allow me to go. He didn't want me to go with him. I guess he identified with those areas, but those areas were always not the best. I feel as though my dad had no fear. He would have associations everywhere, and I would often get asked if I knew how great my dad was. Honestly, at around 10 or 12 years old, I really didn't know what to say. Because to me, he was just my dad. He was the best father he knew how to be. He treated us as young adults, a gentle inspiration to us, a good example of a husband, and everything that one would expect one to be. He was always about healthy living and eating right. I still remember to this day him saying, "Johnny, stay away from the joking and the smoking and the drinking, you know." And this day, if I ever did that at any point in my development or life, there was one person I never wanted to find out. And that was him. I just couldn't disappoint him. Every child has their moments. I had mine. But Sir James would always lovingly counsel and encourage change. When I fell short, I was kind of inspired. It was a kind of inspired change that stuck with me to this day. Even when he had to be stern, you could see that he didn't want to be. He just had a gentle way about him. Watching him share his ideas was another story, and anyone here that knew him when he did so can recall him speaking with conviction and confidence. In his purpose, Sir James was exceptional. It took most of my life to finally understand that his calling was to the service and upliftment of others. Trained as an ordained minister, he was well aware of the individual's role under God's creation as a steward. Ideal in his thinking at times, but his ability to bring an issue at hand to a satisfactory conclusion was done with mastery. He would have you with a positive message, one that continued to inspire hope from within. When it came to others needing counsel, no discussion was over his head. He would just sit down, lean forward, and engage in true, helpful reasoning. His work was never for the glorification of himself. It was for all his brothers and sisters created equal under God. It was clear, and a continuation of the message from Garvey. One God, one aim, one destiny. I now realize that my efforts in my own work pale in comparison to his. I have many fond memories of the last 15 years with Sir James. Pleasurable moments. Those moments I hold dear because it was hard to get him out, hard to get him to put down his cause. Most of the time, that was an effort in itself. However, after he finally settled here in the US, we were able to really have enjoyable times. I often used to joke with him that he was retired. Many times. I would chuckle and laugh, saying so, and he would look at me very serious and say, "No, man, there's more work to be done." "Retire what, man?" I remember in his final days, him speaking of the advancement of Jamaicans as a nation full of potential. I thought to myself, how could someone with so much at hand now be looking over the horizon to Jamaica? My, how we love Jamaica. I remember sharing the news of his passing with a dear friend of his. Finding out that he had passed was a shock to him. I recall the words from his mouth. "Ah, Brother Jimmy, what can you say that is bad about Jimmy? You can't say nothing." I thought to myself, you're right. He really was just a good man. Good in his intentions, good in his efforts towards others. Jimmy, in his efforts though, not always polished, was for the people. He loved his fellow countrymen, family, and friendships. Many of his colleagues have gone before him, and so his association slowed in recent times. However, his message to the young was always consistently this: seek your higher purpose or calling, your God-given talents, and answer that calling. In closing, how does someone sum up 80 years of excellence in a short tribute? My 41 years of experience with Sir James was remarkable. I wouldn't have changed a thing. How do you even put one's personal experience with a man like Jimmy in a few short words? Well, we can't. I will miss my dad, Sir James, in ways that I'm still coming to grips with. I'm realizing that in a loss of which I will just have to get to live with, I will never be ready to say goodbye. Whenever I sing his songs in my head, I hear his voice. That's what gets me every time. I'm comforted that I can always hear his voice, though, through his music. But I will miss his company as well. Knowing that I can't walk up to him, hold him by the shoulder, and just joke with him, as I usually did. I have peace and comfort knowing that God knows best, however. And I know that without a doubt that he dwells in the house of the Lord now and forevermore. I thank each and every one of you here today. Those that knew him personally, those that heard of the legend, those near and far, and even those who just gave themselves to comfort our family in a time of loss. Know that his purpose will continue through us all. His life's work, rich in meaning, will continue to motivate and encourage us all going forward. It is his calling to excellence that will push us into the best of ourselves. Thank you, everyone.
Good afternoon. I am Winston Teddy Tucker. One of many nephew, nieces who call him uncle. And to every person, they would say uncle like they owned him, because that's how he made them feel. James Alexander George Jimmy Tucker was an artist and a philosopher. And I mean philosophy in every sense of the word. And I got to learn how important philosophers are, because in essence, behind every major change in the world over time, you can find a philosopher behind it. Yes, James called me Tedos, the only person to call me Tedos. And we had great conversations. Much has been said so far, so the purpose in repeating it would only take time. I always try to avoid using cliche phrases, but I'm going to use one today because it is unavoidable. There is not enough words that we can say about Jimmy Tucker. I learned from my uncle and our uncle and the father of my cousins and the husband of my Aunt Janet, the brother of his sister here present today, Aunt Joyce, affectionately known as Mother Coos. And that is how he would always refer to her as Mother Coos. And he's always humorous, and regardless of the occasion, when he found Mother Coos present, he would always say, Mother Coos, you're giving us a tune today. Yes, my uncle, there isn't enough words to say about him. And in speaking of words, I learned from him that words have meaning. And I learned that in my early years, at a time when Muhammad Ali was champion of the world. And I remember he was in Jamaica visiting. And as always, a young person around, he's going to tweak your brain. So the subject of Muhammad Ali came up. And I said, well, he's very colorful. So he paused, thought about it, and put me on the spot and said, what do you mean about colorful? And you see, that conversation was relevant because at the time, race was a big issue in the United States, the civil rights movement. So he asked me what I meant. So I explained to him that my referring to Muhammad Ali as colorful was that Muhammad Ali was able to draw attention to himself easily because of his colorful language, his behavior. So I thought about that conversation and realized that some of the times words can have different meanings, and it is up to the person who is speaking to clarify all the time what they mean. And he did. You listen to Uncle Jimmy. When he spoke, his words were not idle. You would come away understanding what he meant. And he would not release you from the conversation until he was satisfied that there was an understanding as to what his words meant. Yes, I said he was an artist and a philosopher, but above everything else, he was an educator. He valued bringing knowledge to young people around him. And as such, he made it one of his primary goals consistently to impress upon the young people that he came across in Jamaica about the importance of them understanding the civics of their country. Because at the end of the day, as he would say, understanding your civics will cause you to want to get involved so that you, your family, community, and your nation, he would not say country, your nation would be better for it. And so he continued up until his last moments to impress upon the government of Jamaica, the education department of Jamaica, to reintroduce civics in the formative years in the schools of Jamaica. And that's one project that we must never, ever allow to die. And one other subject, and politics is one thing, but he never allowed politics to dull his desire for Jamaica, his belief that Jamaica has greatness and greatness to uncover. And so he joined with public, private sector, and he did develop and write a new constitution for Jamaica because it was his belief all along that if your laws and regulations don't capture the culture of the people, then it will be in vain. So in writing that new constitution that he believed the government should have instituted so that the greatness of Jamaica would come sooner than later. To date, it has not been instituted. Nevertheless, there is hope because there's new talk now, and with independence in Jamaica coming up in August, the push will be for Jamaica to adopt a constitution that will indeed serve the people of Jamaica. Now, I want to close in saying and use this as an example of my Uncle Jimmy. And this is how I feel. One of the things that he always is able to do seamlessly. And I came to it when I read a poem when I decided that I was not in high school only to play cricket. I took time out to read a poem, The Apostrophe, and realized that that indeed was my uncle. You see, he didn't say it, but I realized that he was there to punctuate life and not to impose his meaning on life on anyone. So you could always go to my Uncle Jimmy with an issue, as controversial as it might be, as unpleasant as you might think it might be, and as far sweeping away from the culture as you might think it might be. And he would be able to take that position that you have, and before you leave the conversation, he would act like that apostrophe and put the punctuations in places that would bring meaning to the point that you are, the point that you try to raise, and you would leave satisfied that you are in the right direction, and he would be there still, standing like the giant that he always was, that he always will be, saying, we did justice here. So in closing, we'll close with one of his favorite phrases, or phrase rather. One love and keep the faith. Thank you.
So two more things to share. The first is a message from my cousin, Bobby Delano Tucker. I want to read his message. Stage name, Galaxy Tux. Son of Harry, Jimmy Tucker's oldest brother. He says, my Uncle Jimmy, messenger from the Almighty God, a man of dignity. He is a greater from the north, south, east, and west. He sang his heart out for the school children, for the church, for the country, as a born Trenchtown rock. He helped the fisherman. He was the first university singer. He taught Joe Higgs notes of a singer, and Joe taught Bob Marley the notes of a singer. May God take his soul to Jesus Christ, our Savior. Amen. God Almighty, May the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart be acceptable in his soul. Amen. Aunt Janet, you are a keeper for God and sleeper in Jesus Christ. And Aunt John, may your music rest your heart right away. And the spiritual blessings of my Uncle Jimmy carry you to the right hand of God. I love you, Aunt John, Lance, Carla, John. You are the apple of God's eyes. Bless you. Amen, amen, amen. Uncle Jimmy, you are gone, but you'll never be forgotten. I'm your nephew, Bobby Delano Tucker. And the last thing I'll do, and it's kind of a personal story, but when I was growing up as a little kid, the thing that I was used to was my father asking me to sing. It would go something like this. I would walk in, there would be some nice people sitting around in the living room I didn't know, and he would say, Lance, come here. You remember Uncle so-and-so? You remember Auntie so-and-so? Come and sing for them. And of course, I knew what a real singer was. I wasn't about to try. The stakes are just too high. And it got to the point where, I avoided singing altogether. I just really did not want to be put in the limelight. And then who can come up in that shadow, right? But I always told myself that, when my father passed away, and I never assumed that he would go first. You never know how life is going to go. But I told myself, if he did go before me, that I would sing something at his funeral to honor him. So I'd like to sing one of my favorite of all time songs, Have Faith. It's significant to me because it's one of the songs that he sang both as a child and as a grown man. I also think it has great significance to the role that faith brings as we go through life's storms. Losing my dad is one of those things. It tells us that with faith, our victory is guaranteed. And I ask you to bear with me because I've been crying a little bit. Let's see if I can hold it together. When clouds of fear come sailing near, though the way be dark and long, love endures and hope is strong. Have faith, you win. If you would find sweet peace of mind, though the storms around you roll, here's the anchor for your soul. Have faith, you win. What though the heart be sad today, and you may feel you have lost your way? Hope comes to cancel all despair. Fear leaves when love is near you. The storms will pass, peace comes at last, through the faith that makes you strong. Faith that's simple as my song. Have faith, you win. What though the heart be sad today, and you may feel you have lost your way? Love comes to cancel all despair. Fear leaves when love is near you. The storms will pass, peace comes at last, through the faith that makes you strong. Faith as simple as my song. Have faith you win. Thank you.
He has told you, O mortal, what is good. And what does the Lord require of you but to do justice, to love kindness, and to walk humbly with your God? You have seen the stories and you have heard the stories. And even though Jimmy went to seminary, my guess is you saw better sermons from him than you ever heard him speak. You definitely heard him sing better sermons than he ever spoke. To do justice does not just mean that you talk about justice, but it means that you live your life in a way that reflects God's justice. To love kindness is not merely to believe in being kind, but it's to love the very essence of that which is good and lasting and holy and pleasing. And to walk is not a call to inaction, but neither is it a call for sprinting, because life is a marathon and not a sprint. And if you seek to do justice, you are going to have to endure the long, hard work of it. And if you are going to love kindness, you are going to have to endure those who are not kind. So we're reminded that we are to walk humbly. Jimmy did all of this and more. It's a reason why the family has remarked that this is his favorite verse. We've heard echoes of that in the words from the family who have shared their remembrances. Thank you for your courage and your gift and your sharing his life with us. But ultimately, it is God who has shared with us Jimmy's life. Because Jimmy is not something nor someone that we could contain or control or receive ourselves, but Jimmy's life was a gift. In the Song of Songs, in the 8th chapter, there's a section at the very end that's called Homecoming. And it says these words there in the 8th chapter, in the 6th verse and 7th verse. Set me as a seal upon your heart, as a seal upon your arm. For love is strong as death, passion fierce as the grave. Its flashes are flashes of fire, a raging flame. Many waters cannot quench love, neither can the floods drown it. If one offered for love all the wealth of his house, it would be utterly scorned. Water is something that is an integral part to our faith, from the baptismal waters and from the stories of Noah and the ark, from Jesus being baptized. But water also played an important part in identifying who Jimmy was growing up on the island of Jamaica, an island surrounded by water. And just because it was surrounded by water did not mean that it was at water's mercy, but it meant that it was defined by the waters that surrounded it and drew the people together. And Jimmy's passion for unity and to bring people together was surrounded by that water, a water of baptism, a water of hope, a water of God's grace and life. And as tides ebb and flow and life changed around him, God's love remained steadfast. And in the days ahead, the waters will ebb and flow and the tides will come and go, but God's love remains steadfast for you, his family, his friends, those who are with us in person and those who are with us in spirit. Because many waters cannot quench love, neither can the floods drown it. There's a song that I was reminded of in thinking upon Jimmy's life and love of music. And it's a song that I grew up listening to, having the gift of a father who is much more musically talented than I. He sang a song by Dan Fogelberg, and the chorus goes like this. The leader of the band is tired and his eyes are growing old, but his blood runs through my instrument and his song is in my soul. My life has been a poor attempt to imitate the man, for I'm just a living legacy of the leader of the band. Jimmy led us to the tune of music and song, but he also led us to the tune of justice and mercy and kindness. What does the Lord require of you but to do justice, to love kindness, and to walk humbly with your God? For that life lived in God's faith, and for that life in God's hands that will never end. We give thanks today for the life of Jimmy Tucker. Will you join me in a spirit of prayer? Eternal God, creator, preserver of us all, God of love, we thank you for all with which you have blessed us, even to this day. For the gift of joy in days of health and strength, and for the gifts of your abiding presence and promise in days of pain and grief. We praise you for home and friends, and for our baptism, and for our place in your church, with all who have faithfully lived and died. And above all else, we thank you for Jesus, who knew our griefs, who died our death and rose for our sake, who lives and prays for us, and as he taught us, so now we pray together. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever. Amen. We invite you to stand in body or in spirit and join us in our closing hymn as we sing together hymn number 110 in your hymnal, "A Mighty Fortress is Our God." Following the benediction, you're invited to a reception in the Family Life Center, which is out these doors to your left, my right. Now hear these words. Finally, beloved, whatever is true, whatever is honorable, whatever is just, whatever is pure, whatever is pleasing, whatever is commendable, if there is any excellence and if there is anything worthy of praise, think on these things. And the peace of God, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit be with you now and forevermore. Amen.